Today I'd like to do a product review of a little radio that I've been carrying in my EDC backpack now for several months. This is the Sony ICF-S10MK2 Pocket AM/FM radio. Again, it's very inexpensive. It's around $10 on Amazon, so you could actually buy, 3 of these for the price of a higher quality radio. It's not going to outperform a higher quality radio, but for $10, geez, you can't really beat it. I wouldn't really call it a pocket radio. I mean, it's a little bit wide for that, a little thick to be carrying in your front pocket, for example. I would call it more of a handheld radio. So let's talk about some of the aspects of this radio. Let's first go over the size and weight of this little radio. As you can see, it's slightly larger than a deck of cards. The deck of cards is definitely thinner, but it's around that size just to give you some kind of frame of reference. So the dimensions of this radio, it's 2.9 inches in width, which is 7.4 centimeters. It's 4.8 inches in height, which is 12.1 centimeters, and the depth is around 1.2 inches, which is 3 centimeters. So it weighs 10.4 ounces, which is pretty light, I think. And that's not without the batteries, or that's 295 grams. And then it has a telescopic antenna, which is 17 inches in length, or 43.1 centimeters. Let's go over some of the features of this radio. Again, it's very inexpensive, so don't expect a whole bunch of bells and whistles on it. It's actually fairly cheap in construction. It's just flimsy little plastic, but it works for me, so I've been really happy with it. On this side over here, you have your tuning knob, and then you have your band selection, so AM or FM radio. On the front here, it has a little LED tuning indicator, and on this side over here, you have your off, and then you just turn up the volume to turn it on, and then it has a little earphone jack here. Now, this earphone jack is in mono, so you would need to buy a little $2 stereo adapter if you want to use stereo headphones with it, but I rarely use the headphones actually. And then it takes 2 AA batteries that are located in the back here. I actually have lithium in it, and I've been using the same batteries now for 9 months on this radio, and it's been working really great for me. If you go on Amazon's website, you'll notice that a lot of people have purchased this radio, and for the most part the reviews are very positive. There's some that have had a bad experience with this radio. Out of the close to 700 reviews, there's about 30 that have given it a 1 star and 30 that have given it a 2 star on Amazon. But for the most part, people have had a good experience with this. I think if you live close to the city or close to a radio station, this is going to work especially well for you. If you're way down in a rural setting, it might not work as good for you. But I've had a great experience with the reception of this radio. So again, it gets both AM and FM. And the thing I like about it is that because it's analog, it holds a signal. So I could just turn it off and on, and it'll be on whatever the station that I was left on. There's some radios that I've seen out there that are in a digital format, and they kind of reset and they go, but they don't have a pre-programmed station, or they don't leave where you left off at. But this one stays fairly consistent. So I'm able to go through the FM stations pretty well. Again, these are the FM stations. Some people have had problems with the volume control on this, that it's kind of sensitive. It is a little sensitive. It kind of jumps from off to loud fairly quickly. But you got to be a little bit delicate with how you turn it up and down. I haven't really had a bad experience with it. I think it's really great. Let me switch it over to the AM station.
It's a shoestring organization.
So this is 9:50 AM over here in Seattle.
The other guy, I don't want to bring him up. Everything when it comes to listen up, because
this is 710 ESPN in Seattle. As you can hear, it's pretty good in reception for me, at least. I'll turn it up.
A brand new cabin on 5 acres, $134,000, just $500.
That's the volume control, just you can kind of hear it. The speakers, it's nothing fancy on the speaker. It's fairly cheap, but I think it works fairly well, especially if you're out and about working and you just want to listen to maybe some talk radio. I think it's especially good on the AM stations. As you can hear, the FM stations were pretty good though too, at least for me.
This time of year, we're right for the picking.
So I'll turn it off, and you'll hear that it goes right back to the same station, so it holds its signal. And it'll also do that for the AM stations.
Skip the high fat and calories of takeout. Everything has delicious
healthy, gourmet convenience.
So that's just a quick little demo of how it performs, how the signal performs.
With all natural, fresh, local ingredients right in their Redmond kitchen.
Let's go over the pros and cons of this little Sony radio. The number one pro for this radio is that it's very inexpensive. It's only $10. So even if you get a lemon, it's not going to be that bad of a loss. And you could buy a handful of these radios for the same price that you could a higher quality radio. So if you wanted to get a Grundig, for example, you could probably buy 3 Sonys for the price of the cheapest Grundig that you could find. So that's a great benefit. So if you're prepping and if you want to have several of these stored in different backpacks and in your house in the case of a power outage, this might be a good way to go. The other thing I really like about it is that it holds its station. So when you turn it off and on, it's going to be at the same station that you left off at. Some models, especially some digital models of radios, it doesn't really do that. You'll lose your station. And it comes with a nice little lanyard, and it's just a very simple, basic radio to have. As far as the cons go, since it's a cheap radio, it's very cheap in construction too. I mean, it feels flimsy, and so I know a lot of people don't like that. It's kind of even a little bit, it might be considered a little bulky for a pocket radio. I'd say it's more of a handheld radio. This thing works better if you're near radio stations. So if you're way out in a rural environment, you might not want to get this radio. You probably want to get a higher quality radio that could pick up better signal. And then also another con with this, the earphone jack is in mono, so if that really bothers you, if you really want to listen with stereo headphones, that might be an issue with you. You just have to get a $2 little stereo adapter at Radio Shack if you want to listen to that in stereo. But I know some people have been bothered with that. So those are kind of the pros and cons that I see for this cheap little Sony radio. That's going to do it for this review of the Sony ICF-S10MK2 Pocket AM FM radio. Again, for the price, it's going to be kind of hard to beat. Don't expect this thing to outperform your car radio, for example, but for a nice little cheap backup radio source for maybe for an emergencies, this might be a good way for you to go. The frequency range on it is it's standard, so for AM it's 530 to 1605 kilohertz, and for FM it's 87.5 through 108 megahertz. So again, please feel free to leave any kind of comments regarding this review, and I will talk with you more soon. Take care. The following product review has been brought to you by Linda Carter, changing the lives of millions of men worldwide since 1972.